Now it seems that Aston Martin has had it with the reliability issues with the Mercedes engines they're using, because it seems like it only hinders the car's progress. They cannot show what the car can do because the engines they're using right now simply will not cut it on such a car. That's why new reports emerge that Aston Martin is already in talks about switching to another engine manufacturer starting in 2026, and this is sure to raise some eyebrows on the grid. Will this potential agreement improve the green car, or is it just a fluke? Stick around with us to find out. Now, during the April break in Formula 1, an intriguing story has emerged regarding the possibility of Honda returning to the sport as an engine supplier. Though this may seem unlikely, history has shown that anything can happen in Formula 1, especially when it comes to changes in teams' identities and power unit suppliers. The 2026 season will see a reshuffle of engine partners, with Sauber leaving Ferrari to become the works Audi outfit, and Red Bull and AlphaTauri separating from Honda to run the new Ford-backed power unit. While Honda's position is unclear, its recent double title success with Max Verstappen has prompted second thoughts about its planned withdrawal from the sport. The company's name is on the list of manufacturers registered with the FIA for 2026, but it needs to already be working on the 2026 project within the cost cap and other restrictions applied to PU manufacturers. Furthermore, Honda needs to find a new partner team after Red Bull created its own PU facility in Milton Keynes due to Honda's procrastination. In February, the president of Honda Racing Corporation, Koji Watanabe, stated that the company's corporate-wide target is carbon neutrality and that F1 is shifting towards electrification. Honda sees F1's future direction as aligned with its target, which is why it registered as a power unit manufacturer. The company is curious about how F1's top racing category will look with more electrification happening and wants to keep a close eye on it. Since registering, Honda has been contacted by multiple F1 teams. However, for now, the company wants to monitor where Formula 1 is heading and has made no concrete decisions on whether it will rejoin the sport. The statement is quite ambiguous, but it's evident that Honda is interested in joining Formula 1 again if it can find a suitable partner. Unless they collaborate with a new team, their realistic options are limited to the three current Mercedes customers: McLaren, Williams and Aston Martin. On the other hand, it makes sense for all three of them to be exploring their options for the 2026 season and beyond. However, one in particular is a very strong candidate and a very reasonable one. More on this in a second. James Vowles, the boss of Williams, recently stated that his team is still reviewing its options and is not yet committed to Mercedes, while also mentioning that they need to come to a decision fairly soon and that waiting until the end of the year would be too late. While a reunion between Honda and McLaren in F1 would need to address the issues that caused their previous partnership to end on bad terms in 2017, both parties would likely be willing to consider all options for the future, given the changing landscape of the sport. McLaren has already explored the possibility of partnering with Red Bull for the new Ford engine, indicating that the team is open to considering alternatives to its current power unit supplier. So the third option would be Aston Martin. Now, Aston Martin is a very interesting choice because out of these three Mercedes customers, they're by far the best team and they stand to lose the most if Mercedes doesn't solve their reliability issues. It's clear that Aston Martin has strong corporate ties with Mercedes, so switching to Honda would seem to go against commercial interests. However, team owner Lawrence Stroll has publicly stated his goal of challenging for the World Championship, and the team's improved performance this year suggests that he's serious about achieving that goal. To become a true title contender, the team will need to reduce its reliance on Mercedes, and this could include using fewer Mercedes-sourced parts such as the rear suspension and transmission. Sauber has already started making its own gearbox again, instead of using Ferraris, and Aston Martin could follow suit, and the team's move to its own wind tunnel at Silverstone is also a step towards greater independence from Mercedes. While a switch to Honda may seem unlikely, all options need to be explored if Aston Martin is to achieve its long-term goals. Back in December, Aston Martin Technical Director Dan Fallows stressed that there are no plans in place at the moment to reduce the reliance on Mercedes, but he did leave the door open for future changes. "I think we're pretty open-minded about that kind of thing," he said. What this team has gained from its relationship with MGP has been immense, and as we move into the future and do our things our own way or take our own projects, we're very mindful that we have to be able to do them at least as well as, if not better than they do. That's a capability we would have to build up before we even thought about making those decisions. Honestly, what we look at in the future is all open, really. Lawrence is very open about his ambitions for this team, and I think we always have to evaluate what is the next thing that will help us become more competitive. Indeed, Lawrence Stroll has already shown that he is a man with a clear vision for his team, and he has the financial resources to make things happen. It remains to be seen whether a Honda-Aston Martin partnership will come to fruition, but if Stroll believes it's the best move for his team's future, he will surely explore all possible avenues to make it happen. In any case, the steps towards greater independence from Mercedes are a necessary move for Aston Martin if it wants to become a true championship contender in the future. There are larger considerations beyond the complex branding issues that arise, particularly if one adopts the perspective of Team Silverstone or Stroll F1. Currently known as Aston Martin, the former Racing Point team underwent a name change as part of Stroll's marketing strategy for the Aston Martin road car brand. However, Stroll could potentially pivot away from this branding in 2026 if it benefits the team's exclusive partnership with the current most successful engine manufacturer, and this could mean using a different chassis name or even Honda having a works team under its own name, which is appealing because it represents a fresh start. While a reunion with McLaren would require overcoming some awkward history, the Williams team may be perceived as not being competitive enough. As time is running out, Honda cannot afford to wait for Williams to make progress and may turn to Aston Martin instead. This team has already demonstrated progress and has the potential for even greater success in the future. Additionally, Stroll has the advantage of having Martin Whitmarsh as his right-hand man at Aston. Martin Whitmarsh has a history with both McLaren and Honda. He was part of the McLaren-Honda team during the Ayrton Senna era and was instrumental in negotiating the reunion between the two companies in 2015, more than 2 decades after they had split in 1992. In 2014, McLaren ran a single season under the new regulations with a Mercedes hybrid power unit before Honda's entry, and looking back, it may have been better for McLaren to have stayed with Mercedes for longer, given that Mercedes had the best engine in the early years of the regulations. However, in a situation similar to Aston Martin's current one, Whitmarsh believes that McLaren had to take the works Honda deal while it was available. Remaining a Mercedes customer was not a viable long-term option, and this wasn't solely due to a falling out between Ron Dennis and Dieter Zetscher, the former boss of Mercedes-Benz. As he wasn't part of the McLaren fallout, it's safe to assume that Whitmarsh remains on good terms with Honda, and he knows better than most what it would take to get a deal done. It probably doesn't hurt that Honda also knows Aston Martin technical director Fallows well from his Red Bull days. However, there is still one significant obstacle that must be addressed. Current Aston Martin driver Fernando Alonso was a central figure in the collapse of the McLaren-Honda partnership, and it may require some delicate handling to bring him back to the Japanese company. Of course, this also assumes that the former world champion will still be competing in 2026, as he'll be 45 years old by then. So it will be interesting to see how this develops, as it's not all sunshine and rainbows between Aston Martin and Honda, but their potential collaboration in the future would be a very huge thing in the Formula 1 world. So what are your thoughts? Will Honda and AM work together, and will AM move on from Mercedes' engine? Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.